If you are asking yourself, who should I draft in 2021 fantasy football drafts? Should I draft DeAndre Swift or should I draft JK Dobbins? This is the video for you. Ding, ding, get in the ring. What is up, everybody? Back with another draft throwdown. If you are new to these videos, basically the format is simple. We have two guys who are going close in ADP. We are going to make our case. We're going to battle it out for which guy that we want to draft this year. And then you're going to let us know in the comments, who do you want? Who do you think won the battle? All that sort of stuff. But this is going to be an interesting one for us, Kev, because I know we're both, pretty close on these guys. I know we have some similar feelings on both of these where we both feel like we could be ranking them too low. And, 8 months from now at the end of the season, whenever we're looking back at this, it wouldn't surprise us if we were kind of like way off on where we have these guys. But I'm looking forward to this throwdown. I will be a gentleman. The floor is yours first. Make the case for DeAndre.
Yeah, actually, he's just been somebody that's especially recently been growing. I mean, I actually moved him up to my RB15, which is exactly where TFA has him. I still have JK Dobbins, I believe, at RB18, and so they're not significantly far from each other. And it is, like I said, like I feel like I could probably feel like I was a little bit too low on these guys just because I think the ceiling is definitely there. But I will start with DeAndre Swift, who is my guy. And, he only played in 13 games last year, 14.6 fantasy points per game, 193 fantasy points overall, which is 16th among all running backs, while only playing 48% of the opportunities, which is 31st among all running backs, 57 targets, which was 13th, 114 carries, 521 rushing yards, 357 receiving yards, 10 total touchdowns. He wasn't crazy efficient, 194 yards created, 1.21 yards created per touch, only 19 evaded tackles as well, and a 1.69 yards per out run, which was 6th among all running backs. But the thing you absolutely love about DeAndre Swift is pretty easy, is a few things. One, he's just a pass-catching monster. I think that it is really in the range of outcomes for him to see 80 to 90 targets in this offense, just mainly because there's just not a whole lot of other guys there right now. I mean, you have TJ Hawkinson, and then we're all like, different people and, are vying for Tyrell Williams and Rashad Perriman. And, if Amon-Ra St. Brown can be a thing this year, like there's just not a lot there in this offense with Jared Goff to love. So I think we really could be talking about an Alvin Kamara type passing usage or, I don't know. I don't think he gets Christian McCaffrey level, but I definitely think it's possible he sees 100 targets this year. I don't think it's crazy to say. And if he does, like in PPR formats, it's hard to not love a guy who has that kind of ceiling because, as we know, targets are twice as valuable as a carry. And so I'm not as concerned how many carries he's going to get. Yes, Jamal Williams is there. They brought him in, and I think he's going to be involved in this offense. But I do definitely think DeAndre Swift is probably going to handle 60% of the opportunities. He's not just a pass-catching back. He is perfectly capable of being an every down back in this backfield. He is not some little running back. He's 5'8", 212 pounds, who runs a 4.4, which is 83rd percentile, 81st percentile burst score. But he's also a terrific pass catcher out of the backfield. He was undervalued last year coming into the process because of whatever reason. I mean, he was at one time the number one RB1 at some point. And then, the flavors of the week jumped in and everybody kind of started pushing him down. And he kind of was an afterthought. And then he went to Detroit. People weren't excited about that either because it's Detroit. And so it's kind of the same thing this year. And so I just think that the pass catching volume is so high for him, not to mention the fact that he's running behind one of the best offensive lines in the league. PFF graded them as 13th best against the run last year. And, they added to that with adding Penei Sewell, who's going to play right tackle this year for them. And then Frank Ragnow is still there. And Taylor Decker, who is going to be their left tackle. Like, this is going to be a really, really good offensive line. Really good offensive line. And so he's going to have space to operate. And like I said, the targets are going to be there for him. So that's why, and with JK Dobbins, it's just really tough for me to trust that they're going to utilize him in the passing game. Now, I think he has a higher ceiling as far as touchdowns is concerned because his Baltimore offense is going to be much more efficient and better than that when it comes to that. But I just can't get away with from his pass catching volume.
Yeah, we'll definitely go back and forth a little bit here. I will make my case for Dobbins, and we can get into the back and forth a little bit. But the main thing for me, other than what you just ended with in terms of being in the better overall offense and having more scoring opportunity, you mentioned how DeAndre Swift wasn't a with his touches rather. JK Dobbins was completely the opposite. He was uber efficient with his touches and what he received in this offense. We were looking at a guy who had a sub 50% snap share coming in at 48.5. That was 32nd amongst running backs. He had a 38.9% opportunity share, which was 44th amongst running backs. He didn't reach double-digit carries until week 8. And despite all that, he was still able to have the 16th most rushing yards while only being 33rd in carries. Now, we know this dude is a great athlete. You can't really pick that as a plus for him over Swift, because Swift is a good athlete in his own right. We're looking at a guy 5'10", 209, ran a 4.32 at his pro day. Even if you adjust that for the pro day time, give him like a 4.37. That's still 99th percentile, 96th percentile speed score. He has a 98th percentile Spark X score as well. And with all that, we obviously know that he is able to break off chunk runs and explosive plays at any time. Dobbins ranked in the top 5 last year in runs of 15 plus yards with 12. Like I said, he did all this on just 134 carries. Everybody ahead of him on that list had at least 230 carries, outside of Nick Chubb, who only had 190. So explosive runner, better offense. But the thing that gets me excited, it is super encouraging still to this point, is that, it's hard to trust all the training camp blurbs, right? But we have seen a steady drumbeat of Dobbins and the running backs in general being more involved this year in the passing game. We can take this all the way back to mini camps where Harbaugh was saying that was actually a key focus on what they wanted to start installing back in mini camps, was getting the running backs more involved. Now, Gus Edwards is fine as a 1B or a 2, but Dobbins is the guy that you're going to want to use in that pass catching role. Is he going to have the 80 to 90 target ceiling like somebody like DeAndre Swift? Absolutely not. That's not going to happen. That is not anywhere near in his range of outcomes. Even if every wide receiver on Baltimore, went down with injuries, they were literally just running out tight ends and running backs and their pass catchers, he's not going to get 90 targets. That's not in his range of outcomes. But I do think with an expanded role this year in the run game, I would think that if they are going to be expanding the pass game a little bit more for Lamar Jackson, that's going to take away from his carries. Hopefully that's going to go toward JK Dobbins more so than it's going to go toward Gus Edwards. He does that is a negative, right? That he's fighting with 2 other guys for carries where DeAndre Swift just has Jamal. Like, no one is going to confuse Jared Goff for Lamar Jackson. Like, that's not going to happen. But I do think we could see a slight decrease in Lamar's rushing attempts. And hopefully, like I said, that goes toward either J.K. Dobbins carries or J.K. Dobbins targets. He did have 24 targets, which not blowing anything out of the water here. That's not a massive amount by any means. But if he could, potentially add 20 to that, if he could get, basically an extra target per game, and he's more in like that 40 to 50 range, I think that could go a long way. And like I said, he's going to be more involved as a running back as well. So for me, it is close, but with the tiebreaker, I'm just going to go with the guy who's in the better offense. He doesn't have the target ceiling that DeAndre Swift does, but better offense. We've seen him do it. We know he's going to be involved. We know what this offense is going to be. I think it's a more stable offense as well. And then, it's way too early. I'm not going to, be dropping DeAndre Swift down to, running back 30 because of this. But he is dealing with I think he has a groin injury right now. They've been limiting his reps. It doesn't seem like it's going to be anything that's going to affect him into the season. But as we sit here on August 5th, if we are drafting today, I would use those couple of things just to break the tiebreaker and I would take Dobbins over Swift.
It's hard to argue how efficient JK Dobbins was last year, but some of that comes with the fact that you're playing in an offense with Lamar Jackson. I mean, when you have to worry about your quarterback rushing for 1,000 yards every year, or the opposing quarterback, you're not going to be, really talking about much of a stack front. I mean, if you look at his stack front rate last year, you only seen a stack front rate, which is more than 6 defenders in the box. 28.4% of the time was he facing a stack front, and a lot of it's because of the fact that you have to really put so much resources worrying about the quarterback, and so. With JK Dobbins, that it really comes down to the fact that I just can't trust he's going to be utilized in the passing game, which I don't hate where he's going. Like if he falls to you, but if it comes down to me and these two are on the clock, I'm going to take the guy who's going to get passing, who's going to be the pass catcher. Especially at this range. I mean, you're talking about mid third round, kind of where they're going, and so. It's tough for me to pass on that because likely the way that my team played out, I've either probably taken one or maybe possibly two running backs at that point. And if I want to load up on a third, if you have a couple flex options, you could play a running back there and the wide receivers haven't stood out to you there. I'm going to go with DeAndre Swift. And while yes, I think DeAndre Swift loses in the touchdown department in terms of the ceiling, because I don't know if he's probably not going to be a guy who's going to get you 15 touchdowns this year, where you wouldn't be surprised if JK Dobbins did something like that in this offense. And if they kind of go back to a few years ago where they really hone in and he does see 65, 70% of the touches in this backfield, JK Dobbins could be a guy that we kind of feel like we're sleeping on. But I always lean towards in PPR formats, and it's the absolute standard bearer right now in fantasy circles is pass catching volume, right, and PPR formats. And so if it is, I got to go with that guy. And it's not to mention the fact it's not like DeAndre Swift is like Chase Ed, like I keep saying, like he's talked about a lot, like he's just a satellite back. He's not. Like he certainly could handle 80% of the opportunities in this backfield. And if you look last year, DeAndre Swift's final 6 games of the season that he played, he was the RB6 over those final 6 games. And he really started to really take over that backfield where he started seeing routinely the majority of the touches, where earlier in the year, like you look at his snap rate, it was 42, 39, 10, 41, 37, 45. And I remember before Matt Patricia got fired, like, fucking Matt Patricia, play DeAndre Swift. What are we doing here with Adrian Peterson? And then in the second half of the year, 65, 41, 77, 56, 64, 69, 60% of the opportunity, or 60% of the snaps. His usage, his routes, everything jumped up big time. And that's why we saw over the final 6 games of the season, he finishes the RB6 over that time span. Yes, he missed a little bit of time, I believe, because of concussion last year, but this is a guy who could see 300 touches this year. It's definitely in the range of possibility. He has the size to be able to do it. And so for me, it's just really easy for me to go with DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, it's absolutely a close call. I think this also comes down to, you were kind of touching on, what running back is he? Is he your second or third back? I do think some of this comes down to your philosophy when you're drafting as well, right? Like if you're swinging for absolute upside at that point, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Like I said, these guys are super close for me. We're definitely cutting hairs here. I wouldn't be surprised if that does end up being Swift and he has kind of like an Austin Eckler light kind of season where he, like, his pass catching floor just raises him above a bunch of these other options, and he doesn't have to be a 200 carry kind of guy. But as we sit here right now, without trying to get into the weeds of all, what running back is he and upside versus safety and all that, in a vacuum, as we sit here today, I want JK Dobbins for all the reasons we talked about. And you were touching on some of the pros and cons of both these guys. So I don't want to double down and make this a 25-minute video. So let's end it right here. We want to hear from you guys. Who do you want this year in whatever format you're playing? PPR, half PPR, non-PPR? Drop a comment, let us know, and do not forget to join our Discord community as well. That link will be in the description, so go down there, click join, make an account, and come join us with the TFA Fam. Until the next video, we will talk to you guys soon.